Messieurs et Mesdames, ladies and gentlemen, we've just launched the new monitoring exercise. In our closing session, we're going to adopt the outcome document and hear reflections of the outgoing co-chairs of the summit and hand over to the incoming chairs. It's my great pleasure to welcome onto stage the Minister of State of Planning for the Democratic Republic of Congo, His Excellency Christian Mwando Nisimba Kabulo. Sir, please take a seat. Thank you. I would also like to welcome on stage Mr. Abul Kalam Azad, Deputy Secretary, Economic Relations Division of the Ministry of Finance in Bangladesh. Thank you, sir. Please take a seat. Vitalis Meja, co-chair of the Global Partnership and Executive Director of Reality of Aid, Africa. Please take a seat. And Ambassador Thomas Gass from Switzerland. It would be delighted if the two co-chairs could take a seat. Thank you. So, let's have a few words about the adoption of this outcome document. Thomas, tell us briefly about the process that has got us here.
So thank you very much. This has been quite a long process. I remember we came in June, I think it was, we came to the steering committee with a first layout of how we were going to do this. Then we created a zero draft. Then on the 17th of October, we had a draft 1.0. Then we established a drafting group, which included the four co-chairs, and for each of these big four constituencies, two additional people, or two additional institutions and countries. So altogether we were 12. We worked very closely with the incoming chairs, Sweden and Indonesia. And I should say, and this is probably the first time this happened within the GPEDC, we always published the drafts on the internet site. So the drafting team had to go on site and have a look what comments there were and bring them into the discussion.
So very transparent.
It was, I mean, it was a long process. We were sent back to the drawing board, and then we went back to the steering committee, etc. But always we try to be very transparent. The idea was to have a short political statement about how important development effectiveness and development cooperation is in the current time and in facing the current challenges, to try and tease that out a little bit, and then most importantly to add a couple of annexes that show how the monitoring system is going to work, how we're going to bring this down to the country level, the session we've just had just now, and then also to see what other tools there were there. So if you look at the annexes, and I'm sure you're already looking at the document, I'm seeing it there on your laps, you could see that at the end you have in the fourth annex, you have like a list of tools, like the Kampala principles, the guidelines for SIDS, etc. So there's a lot of information there, but we wanted to structure it. The Nairobi outcome document, I think, was about 38 pages. We tried to do a short 6 pages or 5 or 6 pages of a political statement, and then these annexes.
So before we get to the official adoption, I would very much like to hear from Bangladesh about how important this outcome document is for you, sir. Just a few words about its importance, because of course you've been very involved in the consultation process.
Thank you. In fact, from the very beginning, Bangladesh was involved in the consultation process in preparing the outcome document. And this outcome document is it is short brief, but it is handy and friendly. And it reflects the aspiration of all constituency, and especially we put importance on dual country constituency, as we represent dual country, and we are happy with the outcome document, and we hope that our next co-chairs they will implement the outcome document. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's all about the implementation. And I am delighted to now just to ask on stage Ms. Tanya Mokolo Njoli, Member of Parliament from the DRC. Thank you very much for joining us. And really just to say a few words about how important is it for the DRC, this outcome document.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole.
Thank you very much for the floor. Given the findings that showed the weaknesses of the implementation of the principles of development cooperation, for instance, we looked at climate change, pandemics. We're a beneficiary country, and so it's all the more important for us. And this outcome document renews the commitment to apply these principles of effectiveness to the countries, and it's also a compass for the future to avoid some shortcomings in the implementation in future. So I would like to call upon all stakeholders to work on these commitments for which we are accountable. Thank you.
A clear call there from the DRC for effective implementation, because as we know, that's what it's all about. Meja, of course, you have been so involved in this summit, but definitely in the outcome document. What has the role of the partnership been to strengthen these non-executive actors in the process?
I think this outcome document is very crucial. It is crucial because it is outlining the steps that are needed to create an enabling environment for non-executive actors to be effective in their own effectiveness context, but also to become partners around the table. That's one. Two, I think this recognition of country-led development effectiveness, where most of the action is going to take place at the national level and in a multi-stakeholder way. I think that recognition is very important. And indeed, it recognizes the role of civil society, of parliament, of private sector, trade unions, and local authorities, including foundations, to be part and parcel of the process. So I see that as very important. And most importantly, I think, looking at it from a holistic perspective, the agreement of all partners, including development partners, to support this process going forward, especially at the national level, to support the new delivery proposed, the new proposed delivery model, and the new monitoring framework. I think for me, this meeting is an achievement in that regard, and we really look forward to translating the outcome document into a framework that can really change behavior, strengthen partnership, and build trust at the national level.
Thank you very, very much, Meja. So, we are now going to approach the moment when the outcome document is going to be formally adopted. So, Thomas, perhaps you would like to go to the lectern and oversee this process.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I would like to, before I ask the question, I would like to just specify that there have been also some questions. You know, what does this mean? Where do we sign, etc.? Now, the Honourable MP has just said this has to become une boussole. That means a compass. Now, you can have a compass, you can put it in your pocket, or you can leave it in your drawer at home, and then it's no use, even if you have it. And this is exactly what an aspirational declaration is all about. It's a document that every now and then we have to take it out, and we have to compare what we are doing to what it actually says there. So it's not so much about signing, because as you have noticed, there is no list of members of GPEDC. the numbers, the countries are not named there, the companies, the NGOs are not named there, and yet I know the people who are here in this room want to use this as a compass, and this is what we will need if we want to go forward. So, may I ask the question, may I assume that this conference is prepared to adopt the 2022 Effective Development Cooperation Summit Declaration? Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Thomas. So it's now my pleasure to bring on some of those non-executive actors that Meja was talking about to just hear what they got from this summit. So please join me on stage, Raj Kumar, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of DevEx. You will remember the presentation that Raj gave at the beginning on Monday. Thank you. And also Jennifer Del Rosario Malonzo, Executive Director of IBON International, an organization that works closely with a broad range of civil society organizations. So I'm going to ask them a few questions. Raj, in the opening ceremony, you outlined 4 challenges: fragmentation, tied aid, country ownership, and mobilizing investment. Have you had concrete answers to those challenges?
I'm not sure that there are concrete changes coming out of this summit, but I think one thing that's clear is this is a community of development practitioners and leaders who understand probably that data better than the numbers show on the charts. They're living every day the reasons why we have tied aid or the reasons why country systems are not utilized as much. And so I hope at least this kind of convening that gets people who agree with those principles together gets us thinking about how we actually further them. So there is I don't think there is a concrete answer. I don't think it's in the outcome document, but there's maybe a renewed commitment. And that's something worth holding on to.
Excellent. Jennifer, you're from civil society. And of course, you're closest to the people. Now, some representatives of the CPD Unmet Gala initiative were present. What were they asking for? And if you could just speak a few words on their behalf.
Thank you. Well, the Unmet Gala was a play on the Met Gala, actually. It was a CSO parade on stressing about equality and justice. It reflects, the calls on the clothes that were worn by our CSO leaders who paraded around and showed the different calls such as what I'm wearing now, people over profit, planet over profit, what else? No to status quo, aid for justice, and then stop the attacks. Those are the calls that we made, because those are also the messages and the themes that we are engaged in as civil society participating in this partnership. We have been engaged on shrinking civic space, on private sector engagement, on climate finance, conflict and fragility, what else? And of course, development cooperation in general. And we feel that those garments that were shown highlight what's important for us. And please do visit the display in the lobby. They're still there for you to see.
Thank you, Jennifer. Do you feel that we're on the right road, on the right track?
Definitely, I think our efforts here have all contributed to ensure that we are recommitting to the development effectiveness principles and making development cooperation effective and work for the people. So that's our hope, of course.
Thank you very much. Jennifer there giving her headlines, Raj, with those slogans. Of course, DevEx has been very busy during the summit, writing tweets, writing headlines. Of course, we are going to read the full article, but perhaps you would just like to give us some of your main headlines.
Yeah, I guess maybe the biggest one, I put out a tweet from a statement that Paul Kagame, President Kagame, made here on the stage, essentially saying we have a lot of these commitments. Now the question is, are we living up to them? And I think that's the main question, because this is sort of a community of the converted. Everyone here generally agrees with the importance of aid effectiveness, but I think we have to get real about where we are right now. Right? The humanitarian needs I talked about in the opening, they are exploding. And they will take over everything we do in development cooperation if we don't change the way we work. That's already happening today. There are many organizations here. I had so many great discussions with many of you who say that's happening inside your own institutions. You're becoming humanitarian organizations, not development ones. That's happening now. We can see the trajectory where it's going. We're way behind on the SDGs. So I think the general theme coming out of our coverage and coming out of a lot of what you see on social media is that this community gets it. We understand that. Now the question is, can we find the will to shift fast enough to actually get ahead of this curve that is coming? Because if we don't, what we consider development assistance is going to shrink and shrink and shrink, and we're going to be firefighters putting out fires every single day going forward.
If you were now going to compose a tweet, a one-sentence tweet, what would be that sentence, that overriding image of this summit?
I'd say maybe just 2 words: get real. Like, we've got to get real about the challenges, and we know them. This group doesn't need any education on that. Everyone here knows that's why you're doing the work you're doing. But we've got to send that message to the political leaders and the institutions that are maybe a little slower to change. Because if we don't make the changes that are outlined in this outcomes document, that are outlined in the principles from Busan 11 years ago now, if we don't do those very quickly, we will not get ahead of this curve I just described.
Thank you very much. And Jennifer, what would be your final thought, your final tweet that you would like to leave us with?
I think it would be a paragraph, not a tweet. But yes, I agree with Raj. What happens after is what's important. For us, civil society, sustainable development is people-centered development, which means we should have the needs and realities of the people on the ground as our guiding compass, and also as our goal in achieving. Raj already mentioned that we are way off our SDG targets. And we are halfway, at halftime of the SDG target. And unlike the World Cup, with people just on the sidelines, I think people, especially those marginalized, should be at the center, should be at the field, calling the shots. And I think that will help us keep our eyes on the ball, with them there and being listened to and heeded with their calls for better lives and basically fulfilling their human rights.
Thank you very much. So a few metaphors there about getting real, keeping our eye on the ball, bringing everybody onto the pitch, and let's hope that happens going forward. Raj and Jennifer, thank you very much. Thank you. So it's now with great sadness that we have to say goodbye to old friends, the outgoing chair. So I am going to ask Ambassador Thomas Gass of Switzerland and also Abul Kazam Azad, Deputy Secretary, Economic Relations for Bangladesh, to leave the stage and say goodbye. There we are. Parting is such sweet sorrow. But we have 2 new co-chairs, and so it's my pleasure to invite now to the stage Taufik Hanafi, Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Development Planning in Indonesia, to represent Indonesia. Please, sir, take a seat. And again, of course, to welcome Marie Ottosson, Deputy Director General of the Swedish International Development Agency. Please take a seat. And Marie, you were very correct when I asked you before what your priorities were, and you said we'll have to wait for the outcome document to be adopted, and now it has. So perhaps if I could ask you to say what your priorities are, and then I'll move to Indonesia.
Thank you very much. I think you might be a little bit disappointed then with my answer, but I will come back to the Swedish priorities. First of all, I would like to thank Switzerland for arranging such an inspiring and successful high-level meeting. And I can't even imagine the time and effort that you have spent in the preparation for this meeting. But now the time has come for you to relax, because I think we all agree that this has been an excellent and very successful high-level meeting. So my sincere thanks to the Ambassador Thomas Gass and his team, but also I would like to acknowledge the hard work that has been put in by the joint support team at OECD and UNDP. I know that all of you have been working like crazy behind the scenes, so a big thank you to you as well. And it is really an honor for me to be sitting here in front of you today, representing Sweden, as we take over the torch from you, Switzerland, as the new co-chair. I must admit that I feel a little bit overwhelmed after these 3 days, not least considering the magnitude and success of this event. But I also feel very much encouraged, empowered, and very much excited about this new role that Sweden will take on as a new co-chair. And it is clear that GPEDC plays a very important role, so thanks for that. As many of you know, Sweden has been a strong supporter and promoter of development effectiveness since it was formalized in Paris 2005. And our commitment has not changed. And I am proud to say that we stand firmly behind the 4 principles of country ownership, a focus on results, inclusive partnership, and transparency and mutual accountability. And it is also equally clear that GPEDC and the 4 principles are more important than ever. The multiple crises during these last years have amplified the pressure on people, prosperity, peace, and the planet. And the war on Ukraine has also pointed to how complex and interrelated we are, resulting in global energy crisis and food crisis. Reports from IMF, the World Bank, and the UN, they all show us that the economy is slowing down, progress of human development has stagnated. This is also resulting in an increased share of people living in dimensional poverty. As we meet and speak, we are facing unprecedented climate catastrophes, and more people than ever are in need for humanitarian aid. So how do we turn this around? Well, that is a million-dollar question. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I do want to say that it is our responsibility. I do see that it's so important that we all work together. No one else will solve this for us. So we need to build trust among one another. And into concrete actions on the ground. We aim to build on the excellent progress made on the monitoring mechanism as we move also from the global level to country level. So that is one of the priorities for us. But also development happens at the local level, and the ownership of the development process needs to be firmly rooted where it happens. And those affected by the process, they need to be included. And I'm not only talking about government, but also civil society, the private sector, as well as international communities. We are all shareholders and owners of this process. And civil society has a role in its own right, as well as being an active and positive force in promoting democracy and effective development. And we also have a responsibility to support and stand behind civil society and provide an enabling environment where trust is built. And going back to the question about Sweden's priority, I would like to say that we will see where our comparative advantages are. We have already identified some of them. We would like to see if we could do more when it comes to mobilizing capital or the financing for development agenda. We could maybe also do something in relation to digitalization or climate. But we also have other possibilities that we will continue with that we will discuss with our co-chairs first thing tomorrow morning. So with that, I would just like to thank you all once again for attending this meeting, and also for Switzerland for hosting us here in Geneva. And it is my pleasure, as I said, to take on this new co-chair, and I'm super excited, and I'm so much looking forward to 2023, and I'm sure that then, and I'm very much looking forward that we will continue then working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie. And of course, you'll be working very closely with your other co-chair from Indonesia, Mr. Taufik Hanafi, Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Development and Planning. Please, if you would like to say some of your priorities and thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the government of Indonesia, we would like to express our gratitude to Switzerland, Bangladesh, Democratic Republic of Congo, and the Reality of Aid Africa for the leadership in GPEDC, so that the GPEDC entire work program has been completed with outstanding results. We would like to congratulate the Switzerland for the successfully organizing this fruitful event. We would like to thank for the opportunity and trust in Indonesia as co-chair for the forthcoming period. We will continue to promote more multi-stakeholders dialogues and concrete actions. And of course, we're going to follow up the existing program and also adopted documents to strengthen the impact of development effectiveness. Indonesia will also convene a high-level summit on the multi-stakeholder partnership next year. We do invite all of you to come to Indonesia and generate great ideas. And of course, we look forward to collaborating with all of you for the next 3 years and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, we have outgoing chairs, we have incoming chairs, but we also have continuity and institutional knowledge, and that's who I would like now to hear from, the people who are continuing in the role of co-chair. Perhaps Vitalis Meja, co-chair of the GPEDC, you would like to say a few words about how you're going to ensure continuity.
I thank you very much. Let me first begin by really thanking my fellow former co-chairs, and particularly the government of Switzerland for really hosting us so generously and making us feel part and parcel of the process. As non-executive actors, we felt that we are wanted, and you've always made us feel very at home in decision making and engaging us. So we really want to thank your leadership, and we hope that we will still be able to benefit from the experiences and expertise that you've managed to offer us over your period of leadership. I also want to thank Bangladesh. They were the longest serving chair, and indeed we've again immensely benefited from working together, and your contribution both from the provider and recipient side has been very helpful, insightful, but also helped drive the agenda forward. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. I hope we'll still continue engaging, and I'm very happy that Bangladesh is among the countries that have signed up for monitoring. So definitely we'll still be meeting. As a way forward, I think for me, what is going to be a priority are three. The first is country action. We have committed ourselves to move from global light to country heavy. And we have committed ourselves to country-led processes of domestication. We've had concepts like localization and others. I think this is the time. And I think the mere fact that the conference focused on building trust in order to translate commitments into action was very telling. So for me, it's really time to act. And as we go home, let's think about the best structures to mobilize all stakeholders at the national level. We really count on your leadership, especially governments, to really build and bring together a whole coalition around this agenda and create processes that are very inclusive, transparent, and indeed engaging in a very multi-stakeholder process. I also want to challenge development partners. I know you've had a lot of people telling you are not doing this, but I think this meeting has also told us a couple of things. That dialogue is important, but above all, since we are starting on a new delivery model, that it is important that we support it. It is important that we enable it with resources, with expertise, and also with your own political support. That is the only way some of the officials who are here are going to make it when they face maybe a lack of political will at the national level. So your support is going to be very critical to transform this agenda into real country action and country process. Lastly, because this is very passionate and very close to my heart, and my dear friend Andrea, wherever you are a great lady, monitoring. We are very passionate about monitoring. We have seen around 34 countries who have signed up. We need more. We hope that by the end of 2024, we will have another 40 signing up, so that by 2026, all of us have participated at least once in the monitoring. And I hope we will really institutionalize this, but really support it and give it the necessary tools and resources to ensure that all stakeholders engage and really translate the findings into action, so that we don't just have a report, but the report that really leads to some clear action plan and change in behavior at the national level. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Meja, indeed, for setting those targets, which I'm sure that you will achieve. It is now my great pleasure to ask His Excellency Christian Mwando Nisambo Kabulo, Minister of State, Minister of Planning for the Democratic Republic of Congo, to give the final address. Sir, if you would like to do it by the lectern, please feel free. And the Minister will be speaking in French.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear ministers, dear co-chairs of the Global Partnership, distinguished participants, here we are at the very end of the summit on effective development cooperation. Now, this third high-level summit has allowed us to really go into depth and look at development and cooperation in all constituencies, and has given us a platform to look at effective partnerships for development. Now, since we are midway before 2030, and we find ourselves in a context of a lack of commitment for engagements to cooperation, all the different activities and dialogues and discussions that have taken place in the past 3 days have come at a very timely moment. It was essential to meet. It was essential to take stock and to make have constructive orientations to better crystallize the efforts that have been made at the national and international level. Through the different sessions that we have had, we have been able to take note of all the challenges and hindrances that we have come across, that governments, technical partners, financial partners have come across, as well as challenges met by civil society in terms of attaining development. All the different interactive debates, different sessions, spotlight meetings in which we participated have truly underscored the need to fulfill a certain number of demands and requests made by actors around the world. We need to better bolster effective development cooperation. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the activities that have taken place in the past 3 days have led us to this summit declaration, and we must be up to the task of meeting the challenges of our times. We need to break the cycles of fragility, and we need to make sure that this summit declaration guides our work. This was the outcome of longstanding multilateral cooperation. I would like to take this opportunity to commend all the different participants that have been able to be involved in this process. I would like to particularly thank Mr. Thomas Gass, as well as his team. And I would like to ask you to applaud them. Thank you. Let me raise awareness of all stakeholders to better engage themselves in effective development cooperation and to endorse this summit declaration to be able to achieve long-lasting results for the well-being of the planet and your populations. After this third high-level summit that has just taken place for effective development cooperation, please allow me to congratulate His Excellency, the President of the Confederation of Switzerland, as host, the Joint Secretariat of the OCDE and UNDP. I would also like to thank the European Union for their technical assistance, for the co-chairs, the UN African Development Agency for their support, and I would also like to thank the outgoing co-chair and the incoming co-chair. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, to conclude, I would like to wish you a very good return to your home countries, and I would also like to wish you a wonderful Christmas and best wishes for the year 2023 to yourselves and to your respective families. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you for all the people who have supported this very successful summit. You will see on the screen now the cast of, I was going to say cast of characters, but perhaps that's not the right word, all of the people who have made this summit such a success, some of the people you've seen on stage, some of the people you've heard in the sessions, but also some of the people behind the scenes. So you can see that it really is a very large cast of people who've been involved. So, as the Minister just said, have a happy Christmas, and let's hope that 2023 is better than 2022. Thank you very much.